And welcome back into the High School Hockey Podcast. My name is Sean Baligian, and of course, we give a big shout out to the Michigan High School Hockey Coaches Association as well. One of them that is kindly joining us from the west side of the state. He's doing some good things over at Forest Hill Central. Let's welcome in the head coach of the Rangers, Coach Kevin Zaschak. And Coach Zaschak, really appreciate the time. Thanks for joining us here on the High School Hockey Podcast.
Oh, thanks, Sean, and thanks what you guys are doing for high school hockey. It certainly helps get us out there, all the great stuff you're doing to promote us.
Well, you know, there's a lot of great things going on, and I mean, let's start right there. This is a team right now. Before we look at what's going on right now, let's look a little bit back to last year. There were some growing pains last year. You had a young team, but this is a team that kind of found its way as this season progressed, and really, some might say we're playing their best hockey at the end of the year. Do you feel that's an accurate description of your Rangers?
For sure, yeah. We suffered a heavy graduation loss 3 years in a row, and it finally hit us last year. We only had 3 seniors, and we started out 0-7. And actually, we were playing pretty well. We lost to Granville. I think it was our 5th or 6th game, but we kind of started seeing the kids buying in and turning, and then we ended up winning 8 games in a row and beat Granville in overtime later in the year. So that was a nice turnaround. Unfortunately, we lost in the playoffs to East in overtime, but to see the growth was fantastic of the young group.
Well, it's interesting because, Coach, you see this all over the state, the carryover. You know, they, as you mentioned, you buy in, you start to see some results pay off. You guys are off to a 4-1 start this year. What's going right for you?
Well, we're still, believe it or not, on the underside. We graduated 3 guys, but only have 4 seniors this year. So we ended up taking some young freshmen that are logging some key minutes, and you're seeing them grow already. And then we lost a guy to AAA from last year's team, but he came back. He's not played yet, but he'll be back this week, so that'll certainly give us a nice push. He'll be one of our top-line guys. So just young guys buying in, working hard, and we've got a great group of kids who just compete.
Coach Zaschak, the head coach of Forest Hill Central, the Rangers, off to a 4-1 start. You know, Coach, I think you were one of many coaches all around the state that you've kind of taken the approach of where do you want me to go? I mean, I've seen you out at the Chelsea Showcase. You guys have been out to the Trenton Showcase. You're making the long trip over from the Forest Hills area to Farmington to take on a pretty interesting Farmington United team. What's the mindset, I guess, by taking your team on the road and letting these guys experience that?
Well, especially early in the year, we want to, just like you said earlier, we want to set that bar and see. I don't mind taking some losses or playing some tough games to be ready for the playoffs, and we need to see where we're at. And early on is a great challenge. And, you know, we're going to be in the Trenton Showcase again this year, the public showcase, and Farmington's, I believe, 5-1, and they're scoring a ton of goals. So defensively, we're going to find out, again, who we are and what we need to do as the year progresses, because they've been last I checked, they had 31 goals and 3 against.
Coach, let's talk a little bit about hockey on the west side. I think people that follow high school hockey, Forest Hill Central certainly has had their fair share of success, but I think what you've seen in the last 5 years is fascinating. It just seems like so many programs, year after year, there's another one added to the mix of the so-called usual suspects. You've got a front row seat. How is the growth of high school hockey on the west side from your vantage point?
It's been great. I think what you're seeing is a lot of teams are modeling that same, 11, 12-month program to be successful. We have a really good spring, summer, fall league over here that all the teams are playing in. So these kids have a chance to play a lot of games throughout the year, and we have a chance to get quite a few good looks at future players. So as much as this grows over here, you're seeing more teams get involved, and pretty much every team's involved in this now essentially 11-month program that we're running.
That's an outstanding thing. And I'll tell you what, it shows on the ice as well. I mean, as I mentioned, it seems like, there was Granville, GRCC, those were teams that everybody knew about, but NE has popped up, and you guys have popped up. And, Byron Center is an interesting watch this year. Rockford is veteran-laden. A lot of good hockey on the west side of the state, and I certainly encourage people to go check it out. Coach, before we let you go, and we really appreciate your time here on the High School Hockey Podcast, I always like to hear the stories of guys moving on, because as well as I do, there's a narrative out there, and a false narrative at that you can't get to where you want to get playing high school hockey. And year after year, we come up with lists, and I say that plural, not singular, lists of players that have been able to graduate, whether to be to the NAHL, to the USHL, to Division I. Zach Curry, a former player of yours, as a matter of fact, he was on our Player of the Year watch list a couple years ago. He's had a pretty good tear since he left Forest Hills. Why don't you tell everybody what he's up to?
Yeah, Zach's playing for Wilkes-Barre Scranton right now and doing well. I think he's got 4 goals, 3 assists, and he's getting some D1 looks. He's had some, teams approach him, and actually had a few different offers here of late. So he's working his tail off, and perfect example of play high school hockey, keep working, and you can make it to the next level. And the one advantage I tell these guys, we have quite a few kids not playing for us. I think there's 9 that are playing AAA that aren't playing for our school. And our big sell is you practice more. We practice 4 days a week. We lift 2 days a week. It's less wear and tear on the body, less games, and it can prepare you for that next level. So we're really working that hard. And Zach's a perfect example of a kid who followed that system, and he's doing wonderful things.
That's awesome. I love to hear that. Congratulations to the Curry family, and honestly to the whole Forest Hills Central family as well. Coach Kevin Zaschak, as I mentioned, if you're interested in seeing a pretty darn good team from the west side over here on the east side, you have a chance this Friday, 8 o'clock puck drop against Farmington United. Coach, really look forward to seeing you guys in person and appreciate the time here on the High School Hockey Podcast.
Sean, you're awesome. Thanks so much for what you do for all of us, coaches, players across the state. It's much appreciated. I hope you know that.
All the best, Zaz. Really appreciate it. Kevin Zaschak kindly joining us on the High School Hockey Report.